in your runs, double runs, I would start with one a week and just start increasing. So if the first week you do a 20-minute run in the morning, 20-minute at night, the next week you go 30 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night.
And your quality, not that one is quality and one's not, but if you're going to do hills,
any intensity, anything like that, it goes in the first run.
Goes in the first run.
Right. This is the start. And you want to build that first run to about an hour-ish. And that second run, you just keep at 20. And when that hour to 20 starts to feel really good, then you start adding in a little bit more time to that second run. So now let's just say you've got an hour run in the morning and a half-hour run at night. That's really great. Then you want to start sprinkling in intensity into that first run. That's when I would say start adding it in. Then you can really reap the rewards of what you've built in this durable body, able to hold whatever stimulus that you're giving it.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. I'm Jess, your host, and I'm here with Coach BJ today to cap off our 3-part preseason Smackdown series. For the past 2 weeks, we have focused on swimming for triathletes and runners, biking, and today is all about my current fave, running. You guys have fueled us with great questions once again, and our intention is to open you up to new perspectives and more reasons to pay attention closely to how you're relating to your sport, your daily lives, your families, and those brothers and sisters that we call strangers. You guys, the essence of our greatness is found in present moment awareness, because in presence, we are given the visibility to see how we are truly moving through the world. When we really pay attention to the thoughts that we energize, words we use, and actions we take, it's not so much of a surprise what comes our way in life. We are the creators, folks, and we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. BJ and I are so grateful to have you along for the ride as we wake up and shake up the world of endurance sports by bringing mass awareness to the fact that we are in control of our point of attraction moving forward. What we've done in the past is done, but right now, in this very moment, we are in charge of how we move forward, but we must train our minds in order to execute our creative power on purpose. We believe in you right now. We see you in your greatest expression. You are perfect, complete, and badass as you sit today, and we will never see you any other way, because right now, you have the energy that creates worlds coursing through your being. What do you think of that, Beach?
It's pretty phenomenal introduction, as we hear from all our guests when you do that.
It's true, though. Like, we have the energy that creates worlds, not only coursing through our arteries and our veins and in between the fibers of our muscles, but it's the energy that's moving the breath and providing the sound for this voice and my ability to see through my eyes. Like, this is the energy that creates worlds. And somehow this got glossed over in our programming as we grew up in society and in modern day society. And it's funny because we grow up in modern day society, but we're programmed with this old world view that it's like either or. And screw that. It's not either or. That's like a one-dimensional way to live. It's both and, baby. You can have it all. You can have it all. And as we walk this path of yoga and living yoga as a way of life, when we live this way, we realize that living the life that we want, focusing on what we want, it's not in a selfish way. It's not in like a spiritually immature way. It's really in a way where we're doing it for the good of all. We realize and we live and we embody our interconnectedness, and we understand on a deep cellular level that when we give ourselves the permission to live in joy as a state of being, that affects the whole. And I think that dials into, our conversation today as runners, as trail runners, as ultra runners, as marathoners, as triathletes. Running can be one of those sports where we can really beat ourselves up. And it has a reputation of being really hard on the body. And because we buy into these reputations, perhaps injury is a big thing, in this field of running. And being in control of how we're responding to what happens to us. That's the mastery. It's not about avoiding what happens to us. It's not about changing anything. It's about transforming and transcending above these social programs, which are limiting, and they are low vibrational, and they are not aligned with the energy that creates worlds.
All of that. I agree with all of it. I think we get too caught up in the visual cues, and that's when you're talking about the black and white. Like, if you don't see it, you don't believe it.
Oh, and what do you actually, what is actually the recipe there?
Believe it, and then you'll see it.
Yes.
So it comes from inside, and it's intangible. It's something we can't physically grasp yet. And if we can't see it, then the mind is looking for that certainty, and it can't find it. It's like, well, I don't understand this. I don't recognize it. And so that's where distrust and fear and anxiety comes from, the unknown. When the very thing that's pushing that or coming up inside of you that says, I want to run, like I feel compelled to run, most people push that down because of the fear is too powerful. And that's the perfect opportunity to stand up to that fear and let that voice inside that says, I want to run, come to the surface, just like you did. And in Boulder, when we lived there, you share your story, because we talked about this on the last podcast, that you were going to share your run story of how you became a runner despite challenges.
Yeah. So if I sound passionate in my words, it's because I've lived this. I've lived these limited belief systems and these self-sabotaging thoughts. And so I had this belief system that I was a crappy runner that always got injured. Like, that's so not helpful. And I've always had this part inside of me that, you know, when I'm looking in the mirror and I'm thinking to myself, you're such a crappy runner who always gets injured. There's always been this voice inside of me that's like giving me a bitch slap from the inside going, girl, get your shit together. Like, that's crazy talk. What are you talking about? You are amazing. You're an incredible runner. You're going to be as amazing of a runner as you believe yourself to be. So you can sit here and you can say that you're a crappy runner that gets injured all the time, or you can change that point of attraction and you can become the runner that you really dream to be. And so what I did was, because life gives you exactly what you need at all times, our friend Nicole DeBoom was pretty new with Skirt Sports at the time, and it was February. It was for Valentine's Day, and she put out this limited edition shirt that said, I love running. And it's this white cotton t-shirt, and the love is a big heart. And I saw it, and I was like, I'm going to buy that shirt. Like, I'm going to buy that shirt, and I'm changing this relationship with running. I'm going to change it. This was the process that worked for me, okay? We could poke a lot of holes in it, I think, along the way or whatever, but it worked for me. So I wore that damn shirt for every run. I wore that shirt for every run until that belief became who I was. So I wore the shirt for a long time. Let's just say that.
And it wasn't a performance shirt.
No, it was not a performance shirt. It was cotton. Cotton kills people, especially 95-degree days in Boulder. And I'm out there in my cotton shirt. And I'm out on the South Boulder Creek Trail where it was, you know, quite often I would get passed by Craig Alexander, who was the current, you know, world champion, Ironman world champion at the time. I mean, you know, it's the who's who, and it always has been that way, and it certainly was when we lived there. And so the deal that I made with myself is that anytime I had any thoughts of like, I'm slow, I look like crap when I run, why can't I look like that girl? Why can't I, you know, wear just a sports bra and shorts? Why can't my stomach look good? Why do my legs rub together? All those thoughts that I'm really familiar with. The deal was, anytime any of those thoughts came in, I would stop. I would stop the run. I would look down at my shirt. I would say, I love running. I would take a couple of breaths. I would get myself into this space of calmness. And I wasn't meditating at the time. This was just kind of an inherent thing that I taught myself how to do because it felt good. And then I would start running again. And if those thoughts came back in and I found myself energizing them, and when I say energize, I mean like fueling them, indulging them, believing them, I would stop. I would look down at my shirt and I would say, I love running. I love running. And I would think about all the things that I was grateful for. Now, another thing I started doing was anytime, at that time we were training with Craig, who is our first triathlon coach, awesome dude. And we were training on miles. So let's say I had a 10-mile run. At mile 9, what I would do from mile 9 to mile 10 is I would say, thank you toes, thank you thighs, thank you neck, thank you heart, thank you kidneys, thank you lungs, thank you ribs, thank you brain, thank you ears, thank you feet, thank you. I would thank anything and everything about me for that last mile. And if I got stuck and I couldn't think of any, I would just start repeating things like, thank you eyes, thank you heart, thank you ribs. And I would just create what I was doing was creating a gratitude practice, which I didn't realize I was doing that, but that was creating more gratitude for my body. And when you have more gratitude for your body, you're less likely to beat it up. So I was just shining a light on how amazing it was. And over time, I didn't need to wear the shirt anymore. And, now I am that runner. I am. And I have been for a long time. I've believed in myself. And because of that, I continue to believe in myself, because what we focus on expands. So if I believe in myself, I'm going to get more reasons in my life to believe in myself. That's how it works. If I feel like I'm a crappy runner who gets injured all the time, guess what? I'm going to get a lot of evidence in my life that I'm a crappy runner who gets injured all the time. So I changed that. And that was my process, and it worked. And it's, those changes have been irrevocable. And that's that. That's the story.
It's a really good story. I think we
story.
tell it a lot. It is. It covers a bunch of things, because it takes away the visual cue that we just talked about, right? So you got the t-shirt. So when you look in the mirror, you see, I love running. You've got the ability to stop and reset every time the thought that wasn't helping you came up, and you were able to change that. And look at where it's taken you. So a lot of our listeners see you where you are now. This is the 4th year of our podcast. And so they see Jessica now crushing 50Ks and 50 milers and going out for your first 100 mile. And they're like, oh my God, Jess must have always been like this.
No, they didn't see me 2 miles out from my last long run, which was 10 days out from my first marathon, where I strained my calf, and I had 2 miles to go and I could barely walk, and I just felt like that pop, and I just sobbed, and I just limped my way home. And the deal was, you're going to sob and you're going to limp and you're going to do all this dramatic stuff. And once you get into the house, you're going to start to heal. And I was fine. I ended up doing the marathon. But yeah, they don't see all those struggles that I had.
And you were in the boot. You were in the boot at one time, the black boot.
I was in
Remember
the boot
that?
for 8 weeks,
right.
Vowing that I would never be in the boot again.
Right.
Because I thought that my foot might have been fractured. So I went and ran the Boulder Backroads Half Marathon. Got myself a PR and a boot for 8 weeks. And vowed that I'd never be in the boot again. And I wasn't. To quote Tommy Rivers, like, an overuse injury is a stupid injury. Like, I was stupid. And because I wasn't secure in uncertainty or fully trusting my intuition, my body wisdom that's saying back off, I went out and ran a half marathon and broke the foot basically during the half marathon, and then got myself in a boot where if you're not healthy, you're not training. And I was out for 8 weeks in that boot. But yeah, I mean. So
you've seen it all. And my point is, like,
yeah,
people are seeing you where you are now.
Right.
They don't really see how many things that you've gone through.
I've gone through a lot.
It's going to be in the book. The book has to share some of this. One of Jess's books will share some of this. But the story of her running from the point when I was dating you way back in the mid-90s to the point where now you're running 100s. Like, it's pretty phenomenal how far you've come. And so our listeners are probably saying, oh yeah, I thought Jess always ran. But no, it hasn't always been like that.
If we were to look at me 20 years ago there and base my future off the physical evidence that was available at that time, you would say, stay clear of 100-mile trail runs, girl. You are not the material for that.
I would say stay clear of trail running.
Yeah, you too. All right. Should we jump into questions?
Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it. This is one of my favorite topics, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
Because we both made ourselves runners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's so cool. I don't have the questions, though. I need the questions. All right. Question number 1 comes from Molly. How often and how long should brick runs typically be? I'm training for a sprint next month and then a full Ironman at the end of the summer.
All right. Brick runs. One of my favorite topics and favorite things to do for triathlon. I mean, just to get your running legs under you. It's such a different feeling than just going out and running. When you add a bike before it, and actually an intense bike, your legs are going to have that heavy feeling. So it's important to do these runs to get familiar with what it's like to run off the bike. And actually, there was a huge part, and I believe you were on board with this too, where in our careers, we were like, I can't run unless I do a bike before, because we felt so good on the run. And that just comes from experience. So how often and how long should brick runs be? Let's talk about, all right, the sprint first. How often? For a sprint, you can probably do it 2 times a week, I would say. One maybe off an easy bike, and then another one off a bike where you're doing intervals that are at race pace. And you want to run off the bike at race pace. So for a sprint, you don't really need to run too long. I'd say 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It's just such a short distance that you don't need to tax your legs. And then when you move to, so how often would be two times a week? How long would be about, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes. Now, when you move to Ironman, that's a different thing. You want to incorporate brick runs. If you're not a runner, meaning you're not comfortable running long and fast, and it's just, you've got some work to do there, I would suggest incorporating short and this is what I do with our athletes, 5 to 10 minute runs. If you have 4 bikes a week for an Ironman, I'd say 3 of them would be bricks. And it's not hard sessions. It's just moving the legs off the bike. It's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes. It's just becoming familiar with it, so it's not an unknown. So I would start that, and then as you get closer to your race, extend the brick run longer. Get into like 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes. And then you want to build up. I like to go up to about an hour running off the bike. And as you get even closer to the race, you want to incorporate race pace intervals and race pace efforts into that run. So yeah, ideally, if you could run an hour at race pace off the bike, that'd be amazing. Off a 4 or 5 hour bike, that'd be amazing. But again, I don't know your running history, and your body needs to be able to absorb and push that speed and recover enough so that it doesn't put you in a big hole to not continue training leading into the race, because you want to get to an Ironman healthy. So you want to be undercooked for an Ironman race. So yeah, I think, 30 minutes is a pretty strong time. 45 minutes would be really good. And then just building the intensity each week. And if you feel like you want to sprinkle in another brick, do a 5 or 10 minute session off the bike just to get your legs moving.
I used to love when you'd have me do like maybe a 20-minute run off the bike, and the first mile would be race pace.
Yeah, get that feeling.
And then the second mile is just easy cruise.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was somebody asked me the other day about the transition between being a triathlete into a trail runner. I said the toughest thing was like I went out the door and was like, so I just run? Like, I'm not bike, because I sold my bike, right? That's how I like to do things. I like to clear out and start new, right? Like, get the bike out of here. And so I didn't have a bike to ride before my long runs. And I would say even I want to add one thing about this. If you are a trail runner and you have a bike, and if you're feeling a little bit stiff or something like that, to do 30 minutes spinning on the bike, or even an hour.
Even 15 minutes.
Yeah. 15 minutes or an hour. I used to love an hour spinning on the bike, super easy, getting everything like fluid flow, and then go out and do your long run. Yeah. There's somebody who is training at Black Mountain and they ride a canyon. And when I've come up a couple times, I've seen their kit. It's a sweet bike, and it's locked to a fence with their bike shoes locked to the fence, and they must be out on the trail. So somebody is like riding to the mountain and then
Gravel ride?
No, it's not. It's not a gravel.
Is it
It's
pavement?
not a gravel bike. It's a road bike. But they're riding to the mountain and then they're doing a trail run. But I want to know who it is. Okay. Next question. This comes from Sam. Longest run for an Ironman. I listened to the Endurance Planet podcast. Yeah. Love those guys. Tony and Lucho, they're our buds. I listened to the Endurance Planet podcast a ton, and it's so great that you had Lucho and Tony on your show. I love them both. So do we. Lucho talked about working to get 20-mile runs leading into an Ironman race. That so sounds like Lucho. And it sounds like gold too, right? Like that just totally sounds like gold. What are your thoughts on this? And have either of you built up to that volume and consistency? I never got 20-mile runs in ever. But that is something I will definitely be doing in the future. BJ, what about you? Because you were at a point where you had one coach for your swimming and biking.
And then Lucho was my run coach.
Lucho for your run coach, which that must have... Don't do that to BJ. BJ won't appreciate that.
I am forever grateful that they both super cool people, high vibe people that allowed me to do that. It certainly was an eye-opening experience to work with both of them. And then when I split that run up, Lucho had talked to me, and we started to work on getting up to 20 miles consistently. And I don't know if you remember, but I was doing those 20-mile runs on Mondays.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think what Lucho was talking about, because I remember hearing that podcast, is in an ideal world, and if your body is capable of handling it and you're at an elite level, then to try and get 20 by 20 mile runs in is awesome. It's really good. But he also talks about, and this is important, like feel into it. Don't be chasing numbers. Don't chase the number. Like let it come to you. So if you get 10 by 20 runs in this year, maybe next year, you get 12 or 14. And it's just a thing that takes time. I think before I met Lucho, I think I had 1 or 2 runs that were over 20 miles. And then when I was leading into Arizona, because I did this comparison, I remember it, did a spreadsheet way back when. And when I worked with Lucho, I believe I had 10 runs over 20 miles. And I remember doing specifically 2 runs out at the res of 26 miles. And I've done that twice. And what he had me do was progression runs. I got up to 10 of those, and it really paid off because my run was super strong. And the only thing that hurt me on that day in Arizona after doing these runs was my nutrition. So my running game is definitely kicked up because of that. So yes, I have run over 20 miles and I've worked it into my training, but I don't chase numbers. I don't chase it. So Lucho was specifically talking, I think, about elite running and building to that. It's not a guarantee that you're going to run strong and fast. It's just something that worked well for him. So he shares a lot of his experiences because he was a very, very successful endurance athlete, or he is a very successful endurance athlete.
And he's first and foremost, he's durable.
Extremely durable.
You know, you need to
mindset durable. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to put the additions on a solid foundation. You can't, they don't build houses on sand, right? They spend so much time on the foundation to make sure that it's going to be able to hold what's going to be on top of it. So yeah, it's that durability is huge. Let's go to a trail running question. Is trail running helping me get faster on the run in a triathlon? I just watched Lionel's latest video on YouTube, and he was running trails before he ran his fast 5Ks. This is from Brad.
For those that don't know Lionel Sanders, Google him, go on YouTube. He's this amazing Ironman athlete. And he's putting his whole story out on social media through Talbot Cox. It's amazing. It's awesome. So yeah, I watched the video. He is in Tucson, and his coach, he's got a coach now, back to his old coach, and They have a partnership that they work together on, both give feedback and they come to a decision. And he ran trails, probably to get some different mobility in his body, to use different muscles, to add some variety, and allow his body to warm up, work different stuff, and then come back down and hit his 5Ks strong. And I can say firsthand, just from getting more on the trails this year, that it's definitely helping triathlon running. It certainly is. It's creating that durability. It's creating the freshness, right? I'm noticing it more in my mind, like, oh, this is a joy. I just get to go out and run trails and just tool around and move the body in different ways, walk, run, not worry about pace or distance, and just go have an experience. And what I found is the body is moving in ways that is going to allow it to filter through any sensations that happen when you go back to the road. So when you start to add on the speed and the volume on the road, your body's already like strong in a way that it's been moving side to side. It's been pushing off and going up big rocks, and the mind is fresh too, because the mind has been in nature, right? It hasn't been dialed in on this straightaway road, wondering when it's going to end. So I can say firsthand that for me, that that trail running is definitely strengthening my ability to run fast miles. And I'm sure Lionel will find the same thing. And if you came back to triathlon, I'm sure you would too.
Well, I see it when I do run on the road. I see that my easy, comfortable pace is faster now, with no intention of making it faster. So yeah, I mean, I think anybody who trail runs, who goes from road running or triathlon to trail running, will agree that it's a completely different sport. It's just a totally new sport. It's going to make you strong, or
it's going to show your
it's going to show you.
This is what Tommy Ribs talked about.
Yeah.
Your areas of opportunity.
It's going to show you your areas of opportunity. Yeah.
And that's why he does it. He wasn't doing it all the time leading into the marathon trials. He was going down there just to see how the week was on his body, to see where he needed to give it some love and where to back off.
So I would say, so we think, or what is it? We think, so shall we become. So I highly recommend, Brad, that you create a belief that you are getting faster on the run in triathlon. Because if you don't believe that you're getting faster on the run in triathlon, then you're not going to get faster. So create that belief and get on the trails, dude. It will make you, it's like breathing to both sides in the pool. Even though one side doesn't feel really comfortable, it's good to be able to breathe to both sides for many reasons, but it's going to make you more balanced in your body. It's going to make you move through those limitations. It's going to make you move through those brick walls. So trail running is going to do the same thing, because it's going to have you moving in all different directions. It's going to have you going high speeds on uneven ground. You're going to be pushing off when part of your foot's in a runoff, like deep ditch, and the other part of your foot is, banked on the side of an incline into that ditch. So yeah, I mean, it's going to make you stronger, and stronger is going to make you faster.
It's also a slowing down.
Yeah.
It's giving you the ability to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Paces don't translate from road to trail. Okay. Speed work. I've been crushing my speed work every week, and actually increased it from 2 to 3 times per week now. I've been getting faster, but just this week I started to feel something in my left calf, which I've never felt before. I don't want to lose this fitness and speed that I've gained. So I should reduce the speed work back to 1 to 2 times per week, or just push through it. This is from Jacob. Okay. I don't think the latter is a good option.
I don't think, and I think speed work 2 to 3 times a week is a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
You really want the speed work to absorb, and if you're constantly hammering the body, then it's constantly in a state of fatigue and stress, and it's not really adapting to the work that you're doing.
And it's not really coinciding with what your belief method is, which is 80-20.
80-20, the MAF method, Phil Maffetone, they talk about it on Endurance Planet all the time. Just Google it on their website. But yeah, it's basically building the strong foundation. We talked about this, that strong, durable foundation at a low intensity, so that when you add the speed work, that it absorbs in the body to its fullest capacity. So yeah, you can continually pour on speed work every week, 3 or 4 times. but you're not really gaining, in my opinion, not really gaining the most benefit from it. You're almost going in the opposite direction.
Well, and Jacob's body's telling him it's too much.
So that's a sign right there.
His body's telling him, don't wait for the boot, dude.
Yeah.
Listen to the body now.
I would back off the speed work altogether and just go to 2 to 3 weeks of just steady MAF work, or 80% easy.
Just let that calf heal.
Just let it heal. And I can tell you, the fear of losing speed, I've done multiple 10K races on just MAF work and run well close to my PR. So I can run under 40 minutes at a 10K just using the MAF training. No speed, no intervals, no strides, nothing. Just steady work. So it works. It's proven, but you got to give it time, and you need to trust the process. Your body is smarter than you think. It's giving you signs. Back off.
I want some words of advice from you for him about this fear of losing fitness. Like, how does he start to back away?
Neil Henderson, talked about the process, the stress, rest, and adapt. So actually, might be a blessing. Like, let's look at the opportunity that this is presenting you. You actually get to rest a little bit more. And when you rest is when you actually get fit. So when you're out there training, you're taxing the body, you're creating inflammation, you're stressing the body. When you actually rest and have a period of recovery, that's when the actual fitness absorbs in your body. So I would say this is actually really good for him. It's a really good opportunity to have trust that not only is the speed work that you've done going to really absorb in your body, but that you can get faster from this rest period. Like, you're only going to get faster. So we tend to look at the lack, and that's what he's looking at, the lack. I'm not going to be fit. I'm not going to be strong. It's going to take so long for me to get back to this point. Again, I can share with you, I've had firsthand experience, you have too, where you're super fit and strong, FAF, and you just drop off and you get injured or sick or something, and the mind just goes bonkers. It's like, I'm not going to get fit. And we have come back time and time again to not only where we were before, but well beyond that. It's not to drop off and say, well, since I can't run, I'm not going to do anything. This is the very, very opportunistic time to start meditating, to start working the mind muscle, start doing the mental reps.
In the least, okay? When we sit still, when we meditate, we downregulate that nervous system, and we spend time in our healing nervous system. When we spend time in our healing nervous system, our body gets a chance to utilize its inherent wisdom to heal itself. So, in the least, there's the physical science behind it, guys. Okay. Long, slow run from Tara. Is this from my friend Tara? How slow should my long run be? I'm training for my first marathon and haven't run more than 13.1 miles, and that was the last week. I ran 10-minute miles at that race, so I'm not fast, but I believe I can get it done. Good. Well, if you can believe you can get it done, then you're going to get it done. I say up-level that belief to I'm going to crush it.
Yeah, I'm not fast. That's such a perspective.
I know. I wish I still had my shirt, girl. I'd send it over.
Yeah, she needs a running shirt. Oh, we should find one online, and maybe we can
could create one.
We could create one.
Why don't you just create one?
I'll add it to my list. Get it done. On our website soon. I love running. Coming to you from Yogi Triathlete.
All right.
So how long should the long, slow run be? And I don't like the slowness in that.
That sounds sluggish.
It sounds sluggish, and you don't want to just slog through a run. The point of a long run is to build endurance. It's to build a durable body to absorb the distance that you're going to do on race days. So it takes time. And she's at 13.1 miles. Probably she did a race. So she needs to get up to her long run. Depends on when her race is, did she say? No, she didn't say when it was. So it depends on how much time you have. If 13.1 is your longest, I would say start increasing. The safe bet is 10% every week. Maybe a down week, you come down a little bit every 3 weeks or so, or not, because it depends on how you feel. If you're feeling good, you continue. But so 13 miles, and let's just say, I don't know, she's got a race in 8 weeks, 10 weeks. I wouldn't go more than 16, 17 miles. And even for people who do have plenty of time, I wouldn't go past, 20 miles, in my opinion. I would incorporate walking to start to build that extra. So run 13 if you can run 13, and then start to build a mile of walking. Now you're up to 14. And then maybe next week you do 13 and a half miles running and you go up to 15, but you're walking a mile and a half. And you just continually progress that way, slowly letting the body absorb the distance. It takes time.
It's a really good way to
time.
gain fitness. I remember last year you had me leading up to Lake Sonoma. You had me, I remember one day you had me run 4 hours out at Black Mountain and then I hiked for 2 hours. That was awesome. That's a 6-hour workout.
6 hours on your legs.
Yeah, that was great. I got some great mileage that day.
And so your legs are already taxed in those first 4 hours. So why do we need to continue to hammer them? They're going to get fit just by walking. They're going to get a stress just from walking. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So walking's great.
Walking is so good.
The bomb.
It's a great way to increase your mileage. And as far as how slow should my long, slow run be? I mean, it's really, I would lose that word slow. It's a conversational pace. It's not a heavy slog. It's light on the feet. It's, feeling relaxed in your body and that all day pace. Really check in with yourself. Is this my all day pace? Is this something I could hold for a long time?
And if you're questioning that, what is that pace? Another guide is to run with your mouth closed and just breathe through your nose. I've been using that cue lately. But another thing is to walk, run. Run 9 minutes, walk a minute. Run 9 minutes, walk a minute, and just continue that flow. Or run 8 minutes, walk 2 minutes. That's continually. So my point is, there's no one prescribed way to build a long run. You gotta meet the athlete where they're at, and then help them or guide them to a solution or formula that works best for them to get them to that mileage. And there's many different ways to get there. I think the walk run is a great way. I think double runs is another great way to build mileage. Pool running, swimming, even just swimming, elliptical,
cycling.
There's plenty of ways to get you safely to that long run.
I love this. And this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, the either or the both and, right? The either or is if I can't run long, then, I might, then I fill my whole experience leading to the marathon with a lot of insecurity and doubt. But when you look at it from the both and world perspective, the new world perspective, the perspective of all perspectives, you see that there is endless amounts of solutions and options for you in any given moment for any given circumstance in your life. You just named 5-10 things that you can do to help your running. It doesn't always have to look like what running is. There's other ways to build fitness that will help support you to get to this first marathon. And then you reassess. It might not have to look this way in the second marathon. Maybe it's it looks totally different, or maybe it looks the same, but only you can know by really honing in on listening and getting tuned to that inner compass.
But yeah, Tara, you totally can get this done. You can get this distance done. If it's in you, you've had the idea, you believe you can get it done, you'll get it done.
Awesome. Okay. Ooh, one of my favorite subjects right here, double runs. I love double runs. For someone who is injury prone when trying to increase running miles, somebody else needs the shirt, Beej. How can I go about that? Because I just love to run. And as I started to do short triathlons last year, I've really come to love the variety in the sport. My heart is telling me to go bigger, but my physical body is reluctant to jump on board. Any tips you can give me that might allow me to run longer without getting injured?
So first we need to remove that story about the injury.
Yeah, it's not your physical body that's reluctant to jump on board. It's the reluctancy of this belief to fall away. And the belief isn't following away because it's still getting energized. That's really what it is. It's not about changing thoughts, you guys. You can't get rid of thoughts. You can just attune yourself to new thoughts. You can choose the frequency of the thoughts that you want. And if you're choosing a higher frequency of thought, I am so strong, I'm going to be able to run long, like this time it's going to be totally different. Well, then you're not going to be attuning to thoughts like, oh, my physical body is just not getting on board.
But you don't understand. But last time when I did this,
No, I do understand because I've lived it.
Right.
I've lived it.
So so what we're talking about. I know this example so well where you hear Jess talk and you're like, yeah, I get it. But you don't understand. Like right now, my body, I've felt this before. I've felt like, and that right there, those words where you're hanging on to the story is just reinforcing and keeping you stagnant and small and a victim to this injury that's happened to you in your life.
Yeah, and there's no power there.
There's no power at all, but you can change that. You begin to believe. I'm getting better. This is one thing I really like. I'm getting better and better every day in every way.
Right.
It's kind of cheesy. I don't think it's cheesy. I used it for a really long time. I'm getting better and better every day in every way. Every little tiny bit that happens throughout your day is a chance to get better. Did you walk today? Were you able to walk without pain? Great. That's awesome. You weren't able to run? Well, that's fine. Were you able to walk? Great. That's a win. That's moving you forward. It's creating momentum.
Yeah.
That's what we want to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. And we are celebrating you because we see you as perfect and whole and amazing right now. So we're not, when we say like, oh, this thought's not helpful, this is not a personal attack, you guys. We have lived all these low vibrational thoughts. We've lived them. They're not personal. They're just, we need to take the roof off the limitations here, you guys. We are in charge of what we want to attune to in our lives. It's really, we are really in charge of it. And we see you all as incredibly powerful beings and co-creators with your life experience based on what you're energizing as thoughts, the words that you're choosing to use, and the actions that you're taking. So anyway.
Well, with the words that you use, in this same scenario, like, I just love talking about this because it really aligns with where I've been in this story of injury or opportunity, let's call it. You're tied to that belief that this is the way it is, and it's always going to be this way, and that you've tried everything. Right? You've tried everything. How many times have we heard, I've tried everything? And when you ask them, have you tried you've tried everything, right? Every single thing. You've tried walking 30 seconds and running 5 seconds. Like, you've tried every single thing in the universe. This is what we're talking about here, the vastness of opportunity out there.
Which is limitless.
So
if you've tried everything,
then I applaud you. It's pretty remarkable.
All right. So you actually made a note here about double runs. That's what I was saying, like, oh, double runs. But you actually made a note about it. So I'm thinking that's something you want to talk about
absolutely.
Here. For somebody who, like, we're not denying that you've had injury in the past. I also once considered myself to be injury prone and then shifted my focus away from injury prone to how can I get more durable? And one of those ways is double runs.
Double runs are amazing. And you don't do them all the time, but you start to sprinkle in a morning run and an evening run. And I like to separate them, 4 to 6 hours, if not more, apart. And just the first run is your most important one because you want to get that done first. And if things happen throughout your day, the second run doesn't get done, at least you've got the first one in the bank. But you start to add in double runs. Easy way to do it. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. That's a 40-minute run. And it's less taxing on the body because you're not at that 20-minute of fatigue from the first run trying to run another 20 minutes. You're stopping it. You're cutting it short. The same thing we do in the pool. People are trying to go long and it's not happening. Things are happening in their body. You start doing 25s. Get to the other side of the pool, stop. Swim back to the start of the pool, stop. And just break the segments down into smaller parts. So in your runs, double runs, I would start with one a week and just start increasing. So if the first week you do a 20-minute run in the morning, 20-minute at night, the next week you go 30 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night.
And your quality, not that one is quality, one's not, but if you're going to do hills,
any intensity, anything like that, it goes in the first run.
Goes in the first run.
Right. This is the start. And you want to build that first run to about an hour-ish. And that second run, you just keep at 20. And when that hour to 20 starts to feel really good, then you start adding in a little bit more time to that second run. So now let's just say you've got an hour run in the morning and a half hour run at night. That's really great. Then you want to start sprinkling in intensity into that first run. That's when I would say start adding it in. Then you can really reap the rewards of what you've built in this durable body, able to hold whatever stimulus that you're giving it. So double runs are a safe way. I've given them to you. I've given them to plenty of our athletes. And sometimes that second run is a walk or a hike with the dogs.
I love double runs because it really requires you to pay attention to your recovery and how you're eating in your day. Because like if you start hammering, I don't know, hummus and Cholula or, something spicy, that's going to get you on that. For most people, it's going to get you on that second run. So I always do a really good job of focusing on, I love it. I see double runs as like a full day workout. I just love it so much because I'm so mindful about how I'm spending that time in between so that second one, number one, gets done and I'm setting myself up for success on that second run. Yeah, I love it. It's kind of like just like a celebration.
What I pull away from double runs when I started doing them was the mindset piece of it. Just like how amazing is this that I am able to run twice in one day? When that's a new concept and you can do that, it's pretty empowering.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you might walk for the first 10 minutes, I'm always so surprised at how good I feel on those double runs. I love them. Okay. Next question comes from Roger. Trail running. I've been training for a 50 miler and I want to beat my time from last year. So sounds like he's doing the same race. Is it better to get specific with my routes and match similar terrain to the race course or keep collecting miles on the trails, grabbing elevation when I can and honing in my trail running skills?
Well, my first reaction is since he's already done it once and he wants to beat his time, I would get as specific as possible. Like you've shown that you can complete the race. Now you just want to improve your time. And an easy way to do that is get really familiar with the course and get really specific with your training. So if you know that there's a climb of 10% for, a mile, then you want to find something that's similar. And it doesn't have to be a full mile, but at least you can do intervals, maybe on the treadmill at 10%, 5 minutes rest, 5 minutes rest, 5 minutes rest to collect that same feeling of what it's like to get into what you'll experience on race day. That's where I see his biggest improvements. If he simply wants to take off time, get in the specific stuff, like really study the course, be knowledgeable.
And go back, if he did a race report, go back and look at that race report or really take some time to be like, where was I challenged in that race? Like, did he kind of lose steam at the end? So if that's the case, then maybe doing some progression runs to
finish faster,
finish stronger.
Yeah.
So looking at where maybe he had some trouble last year, and that's where he's going to be able to make up the time. And also, just like in triathlon where transition is like free time, I always considered transition is free time. So be as efficient as possible. And you're efficient by being calm in transition. You're not efficient by being like, So when you're coming into aid stations in trail running, and those friggin' aid stations are like, you just want to hang out there all day. They are
the best.
so
it's like a buffet.
Good. There's so much good food. The people are super cool and amazing. But you want, the caps are off the bottles. They're in your hands. If you've got drink mix, it's in the bottle. You're doing this. Like if you've got to climb and let's say you're power hiking it, you're doing things to like move your gels up into the front of your pack. You're getting your bottles out. You're getting things ready so that when you go into the aid stations, you're not like having to pull things out and make decisions. Know what you're going to do before you get there. That's another way to really the way I love to race is by paying attention every second. Like, pay attention to every second. How are you using every second?
Yeah, no moment gets a free pass.
Yeah, no moment gets, glossed over.
Right.
I love that. Okay, we've got 2 more questions. We got, let's see, we have a Patrick. I know running uphill is good for building strength, but what do you think about running downhill fast? It doesn't seem like it's talked about much. Yeah. That's true. It's not. I think it's important.
I think it's really important.
But
again,
I don't know if this is trail running or road running, but I think it's important for both.
Absolutely for both. what it again, this is something that you want to be very careful with because it's a pounding on the legs. So you want to start with short segments. And this was a specific run that I did, and it's Left Hand Canyon. And you would park at the split where Old Stage comes out on Left Hand and do a little warm up. And then you would run 4 miles up Left Hand Canyon, stop, rest for a minute or two. And then you would run hard for 4 miles down the canyon. And it's at a very conducive decline to run at. It's not like 10% or anything. It's actually a pretty good running decline. But what I did after I started to do that, and of course I built up to that, was dip my legs in the river right there, the Boulder. I think it might have been the Boulder Creek, because it does take a big pounding, and your body needs to be able to absorb what effort you're putting down on them. So downhill running really builds that ability to mimic what happens at the end of the race when your legs are like, like they're screaming, like how much more do I have to go? And all you need to do is just keep moving. It's just, it gives you that feeling of what it's like to pound and pound and pound and still continue on. I think that's an important feeling to grasp and to understand that it's not over. Just because you feel this stuff, it doesn't mean like your legs are not going to work.
I think I was saying this to you when we were on the trail the other day. Like when I went to that mountain bike camp in Vail like a million years ago, I remember it was this women's mountain bike camp, and one of the girls that was coaching it was like, we were talking about the downhills, and she just said, trust the bike. Like, trust the bike. Trust that it's going to do what it needs to do, what it's designed to do, what it's built to do. Just relax and trust the bike when you're going downhill. And with trail running, I'm like, like I said to you, I'm like, trust the shoes, trust that you're going to have the footing, trust your legs, trust that you're going to have the turnover. So my mantra, especially at the end of a trail race, when my vision can be a little blurry, or if it's a technical trail and you got tired legs, and my mantra is just perfect steps, perfect steps, perfect steps. And I just feel into that, just perfect steps. And then I kind of back away and I just allow my body, and I trust my body that the feet are going to keep up. Because if I start engaging all this thought about it, it's not helpful. You just got to kind of back away and trust and go for it, right? No safety
Absolutely,
net.
go for
No
it,
safety net, people.
This is why you're out there, right? To have fun and to
go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Take the lid off.
So definitely running downhill.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea.
But ease into it.
Ease into it. Yeah, like you got to earn the right to run 4 miles down a canyon. Ease into it and listen and recover well, especially when you're first starting. Recover well. Okay, final question. This is an anonymous question, which is totally cool. Would love that too. Is it good to do most of your training on the treadmill? I live in a cold area in New York, and I just can't bring myself to run outside in the freezing cold wind. We get you.
We feel you.
We understand. This is a compassionate circle for you right now. We don't want to run when it's cold and windy either.
And this is why we bought a treadmill, commercial grade treadmill, when we moved back to New England.
Yeah, I mean, and it can just be crazy when you live in an area. I was telling the story the other day that there was one day I was running in Newport, and it was like snowing, but then it was also raining, and then there was like ice coming out of the sky, and so it was wet and it was slushy, and the sidewalks were covered because the sidewalks weren't cleared, and I'm running in the road to oncoming traffic, and nobody's really moving over, and I'm getting splashed with these dirty slushy puddles. And I remember just saying, like, I'm done. Like, I know I'm tough. I don't need to keep doing stuff like this. This is just stupid. This is absolutely stupid. So yeah, I started doing treadmill runs because we bought that treadmill. And remember, I had a story about how I hated treadmills and how I always got injured on the treadmill. I had all these stupid stories, you guys. I've had them all. And I ended up loving the treadmill. So what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, you also have to use what you have time for and what you love doing. If you don't love running outside in the cold, then don't run outside in the cold.
Yeah, let's give ourselves permission, you guys, right? to live in joy as a state of being.
The other thing is, don't let that dictate what you do. So that if the treadmill is your gateway to get running in because you love running and you don't like to be out in the cold, then use the treadmill. Like, that's the very reason and purpose it's there. for you. But you can do all your training on the treadmill. There's people who do all their training on a stationary bike and race well. So yeah, you can totally do it. And there's tons of workouts you can do that to make the time go by quicker. And I can share with you those workouts if you want to email me. I've got plenty of treadmill workouts to do. I give them to our athletes all the time. But if it's what you have, then use it. And it's very specific. It's really getting you honed in on your running form. Place a mirror in the front, see how your running form is. Remove the music, like really feel what it's like to run.
That's a great way to train the mind.
Yeah.
Is focus and feel, right? Body is always happening right now. It's a point of presence for sure. And believe that doing the majority or all of your training on the treadmill because of, choices that you make because of where you live, like believe that it is beneficial.
Yeah.
We think, so shall we become.
And if you don't like running on the treadmill and you're tired of the cold, you can do what we did. Pack up.
Yeah.
Move. So again, you have choices. The question's always bigger, or the answer, I should say, is always bigger. Like you can choose to stay where you are, or you can choose to move somewhere warmer.
Awesome, Coach. This has been an incredible preseason Smackdown. I hope that people keep going back to this year after year, or maybe we'll just do this every year. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Our intention is to open you up to new perspectives. There are limitless possibilities and solutions for every conundrum in life, but if we're in the problem, the solution isn't there. So we got to be willing to get out of this old world, either or mindset into the there's no reason why I can't have it all mindset.